If I tell you we all live in a prison, would you believe that? You might think, oh no, I have friends with me. I have a wonderful family. I have a good job, a nice car, a beautiful house. So whenever I want to, I would go out on a trip. Or if I want to eat something, I would go to a restaurant and have that meal. So why would you say that you are in a prison? Let me take you through a small journey in your life. Let's say you have a good job, but one day a global crisis comes and the company bankrupts. You lose your job. What would you feel now? You don't have money in your hand. Can you do whatever you want to? The things that you plan to do? No, right? But see, your happiness is always dependent. You depend on the outside world. You depend on things. You depend on people. Your happiness lies there. You want to go somewhere and you plan it for a long time. Maybe you plan it for 1 month. You go to your job, you earn money, you collect those, and you're browsing the internet to find a better place. And finally, on the very day that you're planning to go on the trip, your mother passes away or she is hospitalized. Can you go now? But all the expectation and the happiness that you were planning to get from that trip, will you be able to get that? Our happiness lies there and we want to do it. We want to have them around us. We want to have those things with us. So if you lose that, you bent out of shape most of the time. But there is a way to understand, to feel true happiness. I'll take an example from my life, a small example. So when I was late, I had a habit of taking coffee. When I was working, I used to have coffee 2 times a day, and it was a must in my life. And when I was working, I couldn't live without that coffee. So in the morning, when I go to office, around 10 o'clock in the morning, I take 1 cup of coffee, and the evening, around 4 o'clock, I take another cup of coffee. And that was something that I never missed out on, because I believe that it gave me happiness, it gave me energy, it gave me the power I needed to work throughout that day. And when I look back, it's true that in my entire time, during my working life, I was, let's say, a coffeeholic, if there's a word like that. But when I started to learn this beautiful philosophy, this great mechanism of how happiness works, I started to look back. How did it all come? So I'll show you the mechanism behind our happiness. Everything starts from a simple idea. Addiction starts from a simple idea. And now we can't live without it. We can't live without the things we want. We can't live without the people we love. Why? We are living in that prison. We are responsible for that. We have created a small prison by ourselves, and now we are living in that. But I never knew that I was living in a prison because I never thought about life in that perspective. Because I believed, okay, whatever I have, I want to preserve them, have it to myself. Whoever was in my life, I wanted to keep them to myself. But I didn't see it as a problem. I thought that's how I can be happy. That's how the pleasure, the happiness, the contentment came to my life. But that is the very reason we moan, we worry. So let me take you through a mechanism where all this started. Whatever we like today were the things we thought that gives you happiness, that brought you happiness, that will bring you happiness. And you believe the happiness or the pleasure, the fulfillment or the contentment comes from that thing. So see, from that little idea, you start to grieve. So if I take that example, the coffee example from my life, how did I start to like coffee? When I was a kid, I didn't like coffee. When I was a teenager, I didn't like coffee. But when I was in the university, I had a friend who was a coffeeholic, who had coffee many times a day. And the idea she had was that it gave her pleasure, happiness, energy, and she could stay up in lectures if she had a coffee. So she had so many reasons to prove that coffee brought her happiness. So what did she do? She told me that. And she told many things to prove that she is happy, she is awake in the lectures, during the lectures, because of that coffee. What did I do? I bought that shirt. And now, those days, I was wearing it because I thought, yes, she's happy because of that coffee she's having. If I want to be awake in the lectures and do things very energetically, so I should use that. So I can, if I take that, I also can be happy. So see, it's a simple idea. And then started to believe that coffee is pleasurable. It gives you happiness. And then what happened was, started to like it. Liking happens. Just tell me, if you like something, what happens next? You just like it and you're okay with that, are you? What happens next? You start to want it, right? Whatever you want today are the things that you liked before, right? Now you want it. Are you satisfied? Are you? No, right? When you want something, what is the feeling you get? Can one of you tell me? What is the feeling you get? Don't you feel that an uneasy feeling? You feel that, right? An urge, sort of a pressure. So when you start to feel that, can you just sit and wait? No, right? Whatever you have today, first you wanted it. Then what did you do? You did whatever it takes you to take it to yourself. And then, so if this wanting happens, It's not an easy feeling because you feel that urge. And then you find a way to have it. When you have it, what would you feel? You feel happy, right? When you have it, you feel happy. When you don't have it, you feel grief. I like coffee, but you don't like coffee. You get it. Are you happy? You don't get it. Are you bothered? No, right? You don't care whether you have it or not because it's not something that you want. But then you see, if you want something only, the problem, you can feel happiness. If you want something only, you feel grief. You don't want it, but still you have it. You're not happy. So you see a connection with this wanting. Let's assume that all of you like coffee. How many glasses of coffee, mugs of coffee can you have? If you get what you wanted, you get 10 coffee mugs now. And I'll give you 10 coffee mugs per each person. Let's assume that everybody likes coffee now. Can you drink all of that? The first sip you take, how would you feel? You feel pleasure, the happiness. But let's take the 10th mug, last bit of, how would you feel? You won't feel that pleasure. So, if we get what we wanted, we all wanted coffee, right? But there's a limitation where you can get it. So, do you see a connection? The happiness doesn't occur just because you get what you wanted. Another example. Can you squeeze your hand? All of you. And squeeze it harder and then relax it. Before you squeeze it, you were okay, right? You wouldn't feel any relaxation or happiness or pleasure. But once you start to squeeze and release it, you felt pleasure, right? That's how this happiness works. The pleasure is the reduction of pressure that was having, that you feel when you get what you wanted. That's why you can't drink 10 mugs of coffee. That's why you get small portions when you go to a restaurant. So the more you have, the more you wait, the higher the pleasure you can experience. So does that prove that the happiness doesn't lie in the outside? We have become very dependent because we believe that happiness comes from the outside world. But this is what happens in the mind. This is a mechanism that happens in the mind. So it doesn't have to do anything with the outside world. So the problem started with a simple idea, a view. And from that view, the mind started to believe that happiness came from the outside world. That particular thing, that particular person. Because of that belief only, liking happens. And then wanting happens. And then only you feel either happiness, the pleasure, or grief. So to feel that, this has to happen. In our lives, we are going after the happiness that we believe is coming from the outside world, right? So, if we can prove ourselves that happiness does not lie within the outside world and it lies within us, that's why I told you We all are prisoners in our little mind because of these ideas we have collected throughout our life, and we are going after that. So we can't live without that. So we have become dependent on those things, the outside world. But if we can break that, we can get out of this prison. We can come out of any addiction we have, any habit that we have. So we can break out of this prison. And there's a way. All we have to do is to realize and understand this process.